Hello all, Foxing here. There's been another update to Marks, and this is just going to quickly go over it, as well as give a little bit of feedback. The artifact now gives you the wind burst ability and not much else, as you have to unlock the 6 wind arrows later on in the artifact instead of the streaming ones when True Aim was active. On top of this change, the first trait you unlock increases your aim shot damage by 10% now. Other than that, everything is the same besides this one. This is now 3% up to 12% or 15% if you have a Relican when you use Disengage instead of just being a base damage reduction. This is going to really tone down how durable a lot of the classes were being with this thing on, because on top of our already like 10%, 15%, we were getting another 20% with some relics, and it was just a bit silly, especially in PvP when, if somebody didn't go down that line or didn't have the artifact power, you were taking a lot less damage than them. So this is a welcome change, really. Our new spell, Windburst, actually does damage now. They doubled its damage, so it will be worth casting as soon as it's off cooldown. Now for talents that they've changed. Black Arrow doesn't stack anymore, and instead of having the Dark Ranger passive, that's been put into Black Arrow. And Black Arrow's cooldown will reset if the target that it was on is killed. Much like a Murder of Crows. Only shadow damage, and it summons the minion to taunt the thing for the duration. The second change is they buff Volley by 300%. So it's worth casting, however it has a cooldown, which, sure, I don't get the point of the cooldown, but, Volley's worth using again. Not over Barrage right now, unless there is, the 100%, like 20 plus mobs to hit all the time. So, still a little bit of work there to be done. Now, the new talent that they've added is Sidewinders, and it's kind of like Trick Shot, and it looks like the old Cobra Shot used to, and it will bounce between all of the targets in a very, very large fashion, and it gives 60 focus, so it's kind of like the old focusing shot. The only downside to this is that it has a 12-second recharge, and in the current fashion of how it's working with other things, it kind of needs to be toned down to either a 10 or 9 second, and then it would be probably like in the goal zone of being useful. But at the moment, there's a point where you have no focus to use, and you still have to wait, 1 or 2 seconds before it comes off cooldown. So, a little bit of tweaking there. We'll see. And the last thing that they did was make Headshot a 30-second cooldown, and buffed its damage a little bit because it was hitting a bit too weak before. Now, something I want to talk about with the direction Mark seems to be going with some of these talents, and it's a bit worrying really, is we keep getting these dots, like Black Arrow and a Murder of Crows, that don't really do that much damage, and they reset if things are killed, which means they're not going to be alive very long, so we don't want to dot them. Like, a lot of these things aren't worth casting, and if they do get a reset, and they're still worth a cast, then, it'd be a very big margin of difference. But the problem with this is, things that are going to die, and they're going to die really quickly, which is, in 8 seconds and 15 seconds, is there's no point in dotting them up if they're going to die, because you're not going to get the full duration of the thing. You're just wasting focus. You're wasting DPS. Now, it's a very thin line between making these things useful and overpowered, because on one side of the token, it's you can cast these two things, it'll deal damage worth being a cast, and it'll reset, and then you can put them on the boss or whatever. And then the other side of that coin is they become absolutely mandatory because they're doing so much damage. Like, instead of playing your class, you're basically just throwing out a Murder of Crows and Black Arrow on literally everything because it's going to die really fast, and it's worth casting. More so than your direct damage. So as it stands right now, Black Arrow and a Murder of Crows are still not going to be viable unless they're really overpowered. Or just change to be rather a buff to something instead of the actual base damage of the talent or whatever it is. A spec that revolves around purely direct damage should not be having these talents that are kind of short duration dots that reset, because it's just gonna cause too many problems if they become mandatory because they're too strong. So that's my feedback on those things. Now I'll show you what Sidewinder looks like and what the current rotation and whatnot looks like. And remember, I mean, it is alpha, so it can change at literally any point. So when you have Sidewinder, you're basically just going to start off with Windburst and Barrage, Sidewinder, Mark Shot, Aim Shot, and again, Sidewinder, Mark Shot, Aim Shot, Aim Shot again, Sidewinder, Mark Shot, Aim Shot, Aim Shot. And this is where the lower cooldown comes into play, because you're now sitting doing nothing. You have too little focus to cast anything, and Sidewinder's still on cooldown. So that's what I was talking about with having a lower cooldown for Sidewinder. Well, it is a very cool idea, and I do actually enjoy Sidewinder a little bit. Yeah, I mean, just lower it a little bit and it'll be good to go. So that's my feedback for the update on today, and I hope you all have a good day. Peace.